Got it. And so paint the picture in August 2019 in Los Angeles. I'm assuming weed, was it legal for everyone or was it just for those holding a medical card or what did the landscape look like?
Yeah, absolutely. It was actually January 1st of 2018 that
Okay.
cannabis became recreationally legal in California. Before that, there was a medical program. But the real days of legal recreational cannabis was January 1st, 18.
Hmm.
And so when we launched August of 19, it was still, very, very new. There wasn't, too many players that were super technological. If you think about cannabis delivery historically, the
Hmm.
last thing you wanted was a paper trail.
Yeah.
Managing this with a robust tech platform, tracking every transaction was
Yeah.
not what the legacy operators did. So we really entered an industry, and there was one
Hmm.
major tech player, which was Ease,
Hmm.
and then Grassdoor launched kind of shortly thereafter, and quickly grew and gained traction. So
Got it.
fast forwarding just a couple years, it's nearly 500 full-time drivers and
Wow.
a path to kind of domination that's ours to lose.
Yeah. And you guys are primarily operating in California, Los Angeles, in the Bay Area, or?
Correct. So we have a large hub in the Los Angeles area, and then a large hub in the San Francisco Bay Area. And then from those hubs, our drivers actually drive 100 miles in every direction.
Oh,
So
wow.
from that one hub in LA, we will send drivers up to Ventura and Oxnard, drivers in Palmdale,
Hmm.
Barstow, all the way down to San Diego, and
Got it.
similarly in San Francisco.
And why is that? Is that because their customers don't have great selection or options when it comes to delivery in those areas, or?
The regulators actually created an opportunity, what they call the ice cream truck model. So you can
Hmm.
actually travel around with inventory.
Hmm.
And so we can give a driver, 10 or 15 orders that are
Yeah.
pre-scheduled, and it'll keep that driver busy for the entire 8 hour shift.
Hmm.
So unlike most courier services where you're going to a restaurant, you're waiting for the
Yeah.
food to be prepared,
Point to point.
our drivers never leave the car. So they
Hmm.
get the inventory for the whole shift. As they approach a customer's address, the customer is told to come outside.
Hmm.
They meet the driver at the passenger window. And it's probably the only courier job I've ever heard of where the drivers never leave the car. You
Yeah.
don't have to have anybody get in your vehicle. You never get out of your vehicle,
Hmm.
and you never wait in line at restaurants. It's
Yeah.
pretty convenient, and you just are in your personal space all day long until the shift is over, and you'll go back to the hub and return the inventory that you haven't sold, as
Yeah.
well as the cash you collected.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a, pretty convenient model for the courier, right? Because obviously with Uber and Lyft, you've got people in your car. A lot of folks have switched over to last mile delivery because then you don't have to deal with people. But you do still have to, go up to people's doors, which is, easy at a house, for example, in a residential neighborhood. But if you go into an apartment complex or, that last mile, that last foot of a lot of deliveries can be, challenging, especially if you need to verify IDs or anything like that. So it's interesting. I don't know that I've actually heard of a last mile delivery model where the customer has to come to you, right? I mean, if you think about, I remember when I did my first training and orientation for Doordash like 7 years ago. In the training, they literally said, we're Doordash. You take it to the door, like it's in the company's name, right? And this, I
We're
guess,
Glassdoor. We're Glassdoor, so we may have made the same mistake with the naming, but I was the first driver. So those first few hundred deliveries, it was myself.
hmm
Safety was always my biggest concern, and that's
yeah,
been the theme of the business ever since. So it's not even enough to just say you're not going to get out of the car. We
hmm
want the driver to be very comfortable with the customer. So whether it's their first order or their 100th order, obviously we're going to kind of measure the risk of that situation differently. So first time patient, we're very, very safe, conservative. We're
hmm
barely rolling down the window.
hmm,
We're making sure that the ID matches the selfie. So we're making
yeah,
each customer take a selfie. Versus it's the 50th order,
yeah,
we have 50 comments from the 50 drivers prior. So we actually
hmm
allow the drivers to read the comments of every driver that's worked with that customer in the past.
hmm
And the goal is to get that driver as comfortable as we possibly can, as safe as they possibly can be for each
yeah.
delivery.
Got it. Yeah, I know that definitely in the past, we've heard from drivers, obviously, people, burritos, alcohol, marijuana, every sort of vertical has its own, sort of positives and negatives or things to, understand or to kind of be aware of. I mean, what are drivers, what do you guys, tell your drivers when it comes to actually making the deliveries? I mean, it sounds like, for those customers, it's like their first order, that there's definitely some extra precautions that go into it.
Harry, of course, my AirPods went out right away.
No
And
worries.
can you hear me now? Are we good?
Yeah.
Oh, Let me.
It sounds good still.
Okay, cool. Harry, can you repeat your question since my AirPods went
Sure.
dead in the first 5 minutes of the podcast?
So when it comes to drivers, obviously safety can be a big issue across multiple different services, whether it's people or food, alcohol, marijuana. So what do you tell your drivers when it comes to, sort of staying safe and, maybe assuaging any fears that they might have?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not to be taken lightly. It's
Mm-hmm.
different than some of those other categories. The first thing that happens is an all-day training session.
Mm.
So the training session is probably half safety, uh, mainly explaining all the things that we're doing behind the scenes to keep them safe.
Yeah.
And so every customer, for example, is verified. There's a selfie, there's an ID, there's a back
Mm-hmm.
office person making sure everything matches up. We're looking at that license number.
Yeah.
Uh, and then it's these rules that are in place to make sure nothing happens at the point of delivery, even if we did a proper check. So for example, we learned quickly every transaction is happening through that passenger window.
Yeah.
There should be a strategy in place to make sure that there's nothing blocking, your
Mm-hmm.
exit as the driver in case something ever did go awry.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just that training to make sure that you guide the customer to that passenger window. You leave a clear path in front of the vehicle in case it ever gets sketchy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really all those checks before we get to the point of delivery that has allowed us to be safe. We've now done nearly 2 million deliveries, no injuries, no major incidences. And it's everything for our business. I mean, if we can't conduct safe transactions, the state regulators aren't going to be very supportive of cannabis delivery, and the whole thing could come to an end. And so it's really our goal to create those best practices, to explain to the state, what those practices are that allows us to keep the driver safe, and hopefully get other operators, following those same practices, so that the industry as a whole doesn't have any vulnerabilities. If there's an operator that is doing things the wrong way and they're a target for the bad guys, it could hurt all of the operators. So we're trying to set the example, and we do that mainly through our technology. We have a very large tech team, 75 full-time engineers,
Oh, wow.
just thinking about this all day long, the experiences of our drivers, the feedback, the rating system for customers, just like the customers rating the driver, we're rating the customers, and we make those reviews, comments available to every driver and customer service thereafter, so that we can understand who we're dealing with.
Yeah. So the drivers can feel comfortable. And